if you want to make sure that that person is not going to do you harm, then it's usually a good idea to keep your bodyguard between you and that person who is after you. So, when I count to 3, what you're going to do is place yourself in the room so that your bodyguard is between you and the person who's coming after you, okay? So, is that clear?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, go.
This is okay, I'm gonna search my bodyguard.
Oh, your Okay, return to your seats. So what happened?
What's running away?
I like Randall's aha moment. Go ahead and sit down.
Oh!
They're not standing still. So what happened? Shala? Jean?
Well, I think the thing is, you have to watch the 2 people, and you never know what your bodyguard is going to be up to, and so it's hard to keep them as
They're supposed to be.
Yes.
Security. Sure.
I'm going to fire my bodyguard.
Really?
He made me chase him. Kept moving around on me and kept moving away from my aggressor. So you're fired.
Darn. Yeah.
Mine went straight to the guy who was after me.
Oh, no! Oh, my goodness. That one deserves firing as well.
I was caring more about my bodyguard than first I need my protection, and then we will deal together.
Okay, all right.
My bodyguard did a good job.
Oh, excellent. Oh, good. All right. Randall, I just have to hear from you. I watched you for the next
Okay. Why the hell did my bodyguard? Why the hell is my bodyguard running away from me? Like, this doesn't make sense. And then I ended up picking another bodyguard.
Oh, no, you can't do that.
You can't do that?
Breaking the rules. Okay,
Breaking the
Jordan.
rules.
It was actually quite scary to me because I saw my life unfold. This is what I do in real life. I just didn't know I was doing it. That there are people that I made up to be my enemies in my mind and they have no idea about it. And I have people that I have selected arbitrarily in my mind that I can trust them, and if I just follow them or I just be like them, or if I mimic them, or if I read what they read or I do what they do, I'll be okay. So this is my life. I do this.
Interesting. What did we just learn? I could have stood up here with everybody in rows in the usual nice, controllable banking model of education, where you're all empty vessels waiting for the gems of wisdom and knowledge to be deposited in your empty bank from a person standing at the lecture. And I could have read to you that, so this group was standing in a circle, and they were to identify a person who was after them and a bodyguard, and then the trainer said, go. And so you're sitting there and you're taking notes. So, how is this different?
The experience, actually having the experience.
This is experiential learning. And there is no way that I could describe that to people. And I have described it using all my capacities to describe the chaos that happens. But it's only when people do it. And obviously there's a surprise element to it. Once you know, it's another key thing about this kind of training, surprise is so key. If you're staying for my keynote speech after this, I'll be talking a lot about surprise and how you need to, as a trainer, to be able to spring stuff on people. So if you knew what was going to happen, if you've done this before, I would have asked, generally I would say, if you've done this before, if you've done bodyguard before, then step outside the circle, because you have already experienced that experience. So that is just a really short, little, very illustrative, that's the experience.
Oh, good question.
Yes.
What do you mean by stepping outside the circle?
Oh, if we'd done a training before, Randall, you and I, and we'd done bodyguard, which is what that tool is called, I would have asked you, could you just, watch out and observe, actually observe, but you're outside the circle. So if you are doing tools that have a surprise element to it, then you need to make sure that you don't have someone in the room who's going to, by what they do, or is actually going to undermine the tool. So yes, Shala.
And what was observation?
What was the observation?
Yeah, from the observer point of view. Not
I was, Randall, I've already mentioned, was one who really caught me out. What I was curious about is that there were 2 or 3 of you who were just standing right here and not moving. I don't know if that meant that you were your bodyguard, or I can't remember who it was, but there were 2 or 3 people here, and so everything seemed to be working fine. But then there were others who were traveling all over the room in constant motion.
I have a question. Why were you standing there?
I was looking, I find the people who will be my, and go after. I said,
No, I'm going
after. And go after. Yeah.
You were looking for a
bodyguard. Yeah, problem. People are supporting each other. But behind after, I find what is my assumption, such kind of people I can find here. So then I will think who would be such kind of person. So that's standing, deeply thinking of it. Yeah, no, I don't find anyone to go
I'm just
after.
really confused now. Like, what was the intention in that
The
exercise?
intention of that was that there was a difference between simply being told something and actually putting your body into it and experiencing it. So it's the essence of experiential learning, that you put your body into it. And I can tell you, I had a recent experience where there were 2 of us doing a similar training. And one trainer arrived carrying sheets and sheets and sheets of flip chart paper and put them all up on the wall. And they were good information, it was great information. I did it, this sounds terribly self-serving, sorry, but the way I did it was I got that information, but it was elicited after I led people through an experience. And the group that did the experience with me in that particular group remembered days later what they learned, because it was here, it was in their guts, and not just simply a list. It's fabulous information, but my rule for experiential learning is that you don't go into a room loaded down with flip chart paper or PowerPoints. What you want is to lead people through an experience who then and then the art of a good trainer is to ask the right questions. So you elicit from people what the other trainer put up on a list. And then it's there. So now you know what bodyguard is, but you know because you've actually been through it, as opposed to someone telling you, you stand around in a circle and this is what you do.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So with experiential learning, there are, the first part of it obviously is that you have an experience. You lead people through an experience as a trainer. And then you, from there, go to a point of reflecting on it. What happened? What did you observe? How did you feel? And this is very quick and dirty here. But then, from there, you then ask the question, you generalize. what does this experience remind me of? That we just went through, not so much the bodyguard, but what does that experience make me think of? So when we were doing that stereotyping exercise, standing in front of people, many of you talked about it reminds you of this, reminds you of that. This is what it feels like. This is how I have experienced that in the past. So you generalize to other experiences, and then you take that learning and you apply it, which then turns into another experience. But if you are committed to experiential learning, I guarantee you this is what will happen every time. Asking the right questions, going through the experience, asking the right questions, so that people are constantly on that experiential learning curve. I have one tool that I do with my co-trainer in Sudan, and it's just called Orange Power, and it's an orange. And so he's actually a good juggler. And so he goes around the circle and he's juggling a bunch of, what do you call those softballs, hacky sacks? Yeah. So he's juggling, and one of them is an orange. And and imagine this is in the middle of the deserts of Darfur. That's the sort of the context. And so I am going around the circle and watching him and gradually sneaking up on him, and I grab the orange and I run away with it. And I start peeling off the orange, and obviously this is much better if you actually see it rather than me just telling you about it. Peel off the orange, throw it out, and we have this very hostile conversation going back and forth about what do you need the orange for? I'm thirsty, I haven't eaten, I haven't had anything to drink all day, I need this. Well, my nephew's having his birthday, and I'm making orange cake, and I need the orange to flavor it. That's too bad. And I throw the peel at him. Have the peel then. Flavor your cake. I need the orange. No, I want the orange back. So there's this play, this dramatization that goes on. And then from there, so it's an experience even though it's just observing. People are watching and getting into the drama like we do as we watch a good play or something like that. And then I say to people, of what does that remind you? And it is stunning what people then put in that container. They talk about land, their land, that has been taken from them, and it is now being destroyed, the rivers have been polluted, the forests have been torn down, and why? To get at the oil. To get at the oil in the Abyei, in Kordofan. And they then are able to take what is a simple little fun, it makes people laugh. Humor is a very key tool to these kinds of trainings where you're dealing with who knows what people are bringing into the room. So they're laughing initially, and then they are putting their content into that container. So that is why I said earlier about these tools are so adaptable. Doesn't matter what is the situation, because it's just the container. People then are going to, you're not going to be talking about the census process in Darfur. You're not going to be talking about the crystal tile woven roofs that are causing all sorts of people to die of mesothelioma, crystal tile, Canadian asbestos from people who were displaced originally by the building of the Aswan Dam. Your content is going to be something else. But it all came out of this container that was Orange Power. It was a fun role play. What does it mean when somebody is taking something of yours and despoiling it and using it for what feels like a game as opposed to survival? And where do people go with that? So, just an example.